Backstory is a big component of any campaign or character, and it's the best way of making your story feel real deep in comparison to somewhat shallow. It can be sometimes difficult to piece together previous events for anyone, DM or player, but once you either take the time to consider it, or just make it up as you go, you'll be thankful you did. Establishing previous friends, old rumours and events in your character's story, or considering important figures in a character's life are the easiest ways to get started with thinking about this sort of stuff. I tend to not go super in detail about a lot of stuff unless I feel like I need to, so often I'm improvising a lot of my backstory, which is totally valid too. Hello, welcome to T&D&D, where we are going to be talking D&D, believe it or not. Today we're talking about character backstories and the like. Not necessarily a how-to video on, like, you know, how specifically to make your D&D character's backstory good. I'm simply going to try and give you a few prompts to perhaps get your brain jogging if you're making a character. This advice can also apply to a DM who wants to create an NPC. I definitely recommend going a little bit more into detail on an NPC beyond just what you think is in your head. A great example of what is written down about an NPC is in modules. I think that Dragon Heist does a brilliant job of putting down all their NPCs as well as Curse of Strahd and noting them down in a very specific place and way so that the DM can easily access them and understand elements of their past and the like. So, I think the first important aspect of coming up with a character's backstory is considering a big event or two. A couple examples of what I mean are perhaps that you've got given 1,000 gold once to kill a noble, no questions asked. Or maybe your home was attacked by a band of hobgoblins, forcing you and your family to flee. I think that these sorts of things can help out a DM very much, as well as a player. But as a DM myself, I heavily enjoy when my players give me a bigger prompt than just, here's my race and class, my parents are dead. Uh-oh! I don't always ask for it. I'm not like, I want a massive backstory. I just ask them to make some characters, tell them what the setting is, what generally the sorts of characters that they could perhaps come up with, etc., etc. I do lay ground rules as well and stuff like that. But when a player goes out of their way to make sure that there is a key event that has happened in their backstory, it really helps me as a DM frame a storyline around that. From here, you can consider some elements on how these events have shaped the character. This can be in a minor way, like them always needing to check around corners or having a tendency to get quiet upon seeing people happy. You're already adding layers to your character just with these small aspects, and therefore making them quite interesting to someone, at least in my opinion. Whenever you have a character whose current day decision making is ruled by past experiences, they're a real person now, because that's how real people in the world work. Most of our personality traits are inherited from others and what we see people do. That's why piece of shit influences and stuff like that are a absolutely horrible thing, because kids will start looking up to them and acting like that, etc., etc. And it can also inform good behavior in people as well, like seeing a motivational speaker talk about how their experiences shape them into the person they are now. It might encourage someone else to feel the same and go out there. But yeah, past experiences inform present decisions, so definitely consider that. Then, after you've thought about these large events that have happened in their life, I would say think of an important person that's been in your character's life at some point. This could be a lover, a friend, a sibling, a child, anything that you think you'd resonate with the most. Consider who that person was and the character's feelings towards them. Are they happy, angry, fearful, worried, considerate? They don't have an opinion on them, but they're just there. Then maybe think about something that happened with this person. Did your bond that you had previously somewhat sever? Did they do something but still want to be a friend with you? Or did they do something awful but still want to be a friend with you? Or murder your partner in front of your own eyes? Asking yourself these questions can result in feeling more comfortable slipping into your character's shoes. It definitely helps me feel like my players are a little more genuine when they add other people to their backstories, which most people always do. And even if they don't put names, they might talk about a community of people, which you can also definitely mention. My Sunday Games character, Valdor, he had a loose backstory in his head, I believe, where, you know, he was part of a a group of the faithful folk who all got slaughtered. And even just him being a member of a religion and having that faith brought down, that's enough to build a character off of just right there. He didn't have a name of people. All that he knew was that something bad had happened. Also consider, when building on a character, elements of their backstory and how they would shape the character's current objective. Has your family gotten killed? You're on a mission to get the guys who did it. Discover an old secret? You're trying to hide it from the wrong people. Definitely consider how those large events might have shaped your character's current, not just decisions, but objectives. Here's an example. My Tuesday game character in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Orson, big old Battlemaster fighter, a classic. He's very powerful. His current objective is to protect his brother because, spoiler alert for the Tuesday game, get out of here right now, you're not supposed to know this yet. A load of people in his past all got slaughtered, and he was there to witness it all, and he lived. So now he is trying to protect his brother, who is the only person left that he feels like he can, which is something that he's dependent on. As a person, he's always been taught to protect people, and that's what he does, etc., etc. So his past experiences are now dictating what he wants to do. A good way to start is considering what your character has lost, and how they want to either get it back or clean up the business. Family heirlooms, memories, limbs, friends, pets, anything. You could think of what you've lost and how you want to interact with that element. You don't always have to go with, my character's just so sad, but generally, your character doesn't always have to have ever lost something. They could be some privileged kid who, after going on this adventure, that's what they've lost. They've lost their old life, and now they're trying to cope with this new one that they have, etc., etc. Loss can inform a lot of character decisions and what they believe that they need to do now. That can form another objective, etc., etc. Normally, when a player has a sizable backstory, they would like to explore that at some point and see what comes of it. It doesn't have to be in a massive way, but even a mention of it can immediately ingrain a party member into the story and make a player feel like they're in this world that you're pretending to be in. However, if you're interested in exploring it in a larger way, like me, always, then you could make an entire subplot involving figures and moments from a player's backstory. This is a well-known premise, but honestly can be very hard to do right. Sometimes a player has a vision for their own story that you don't exactly nail. I'll give my advice on that for a second, but first off, I did just want to mention that I think that D&D shows have definitely made DMs think that they have to incorporate their players into their campaign in a major way. For example, Critical Role, an entire arc of the story was dedicated to basically Percy. Another one was dedicated to basically everyone, but it was based around Vex and Vax's backstory, etc., etc. And you don't have to do that at all. You can do it in a much more minor way. I think the best example of it done a little more right is Grog's little, 5 sessions of his family or old family and his tribe being a thing. That wasn't a massive story point. It was just an interesting quest that the party went on that involved people from his past, and he came out with a cool-ass magic item from it. In comparison to a whole-ass 20, 30, 40 episodes dedicated to a bunch of, I think it was like 20, but a bunch of freaking powerful-ass vampires who intertwined in Percy's backstory. It can be hard to keep that sort of momentum going for 20 sessions without making the other members of the party feel a little ostracized. Here's my advice for this sort of problem. For one, I think that you should maybe cut down on the amount of player backstory you want to explore. Honestly, they're going to feel great even doing just one session of it. But having an entire story arc just dedicated to one character, that's something for a solo thing, in my opinion. And sure, other party members can be there and they can contribute just as much, but they're going to feel like this isn't their story right now. They're going to feel like it's someone else's after a while. That's perfectly fine if your group rocks like that. Not all of them do. In terms of disappointing your players in terms of their own backstory and how your vision is most all the time going to be different than theirs, I think the best way to do that is to literally ask them how they would like to have their backstory involved. Were their parents killed by gnolls? Maybe the player wants the gnolls to be absolutely destroying a new village and they want to save it to get revenge and make up for the losses. Sure, you lose that element of surprise for the player, but in all honesty, when you foreshadow this a lot by saying, yeah, we'll totally do that, and they finally get to do it, and they've been waiting to do it for months, they'll feel all the more hyped and ready to go. Much more than if they were surprised, honestly. Because if they're not expecting it, sure, they'll be hyped, but I think that it will take them by surprise. That's what surprising is. It will... I find that basically just telling players somewhere along the line, this might happen, just be careful for that, can help them feel more excited to keep playing your sessions and stuff like that. I think that there's a stigma around kind of role-playing games of the DM having to keep everything secret. I don't. I roll all of my dice on Roll20 publicly whenever I play. They will all show up on the party screen regardless. I always keep them open now to build trust with my players, but also to advise caution, etc., etc. I am a very non-secretive DM, except in specific story elements that are currently happening in the moment. For instance, my party, after the last session and the session before, I believe were feeling a lot of pressure to go and deal with the bad guy. They were way too underleveled for it, but nonetheless, after having that happen, they were all like, we can't take time, we're going to need to just build resources constantly. And I can't fully remember if that was the thing. They might have said something like that, because I remember them saying something like that, and I trust my brain. But I literally said to them, alright, as a DM, Dragon's not going to do anything for months. You guys are good for now. Because I want them to ultimately feel less pressure for this section of the campaign, where they're going to be exploring freely and going wherever they want and doing whatever they want now. They're going to get a ship, possibly, and they're going to sail. They're going to go to some side locations that I've planted in people's backstories. Not backstories. They've researched over downtime, so I've put seeds of side quests and the like there. And I have ultimately told them that Akrol ain't sticking around, my dragon, so that therefore they can focus more on what's happening in the moment. And people are like, whoa, no, you can't tell them this plot secret right here. Go away. They have more fun when they know that they can. If you don't want to upfront ask them and like plan a story element around something that you're going to tell them in their face, maybe inquire about what they find fun about D&D and what they'd be interested in exploring more in terms of gameplay, and then using that answer to inform your inspiration for giving this player the most fun spotlight they could have. If your player just absolutely lives for that dungeon crawl element, maybe the secret to their family's true past lies in an intricate puzzle dungeon for them to solve. If they adore the role-playing element, as we all do, maybe answers lie with a crazed hermit in the hills who wants specific herbs before he coughs up the information. That could be a definitely fun social encounter, and then can also take them around, maybe talking to other people who have the herbs, etc., etc. That's fun, I want to do that now. Alright, that's it, I'm putting a crazy hermit in my game. Sometimes you want to go full on with the player's backstory and directly integrate them into the main plot. This is a great tool to get them wanting to pursue the primary story that you have set out for them. My Sunday campaign's main villain is Akrol, an ancient black dragon. He's responsible for the deaths of a character's quote-unquote family, knows plenty of the party's secrets, and in-game completely dissolve the character's natural connection to the world before their eyes. The fact that it's somewhat known that Akrol is the puppet master of it all makes him hateable, and has also given the party plenty to do. There are 3 key figures that led the slaughter of that paladin, Valdor's entire community, and I could pull these guys out at any time to antagonize the party and directly oppose them because they are completely opposed, all because of one character's backstory, which I've implemented into the campaign. They actually met one of these figures so far, and they were terrified for a bit. Basically, he rebelled against the group because he realized that he was doing some very morally wrong things and was just being sweet-talked to, etc., etc. And they met him, and Valdor was just like, oh, I'm going to hide my holy symbol, just make sure that, he doesn't kill me. And then it slowly reveals that he's probably left them, and he's suffering a bit of PTSD because of it, and the like. But yeah, turns out he was pretty pacifist, and there was an interesting interaction there that stemmed from building on a backstory. Hopefully this has given both the DM and the player some useful advice for player backstories, because this is definitely an area where I struggle a lot. Let me know anything I might have missed, or ask me some questions in the comments section or in our Discord, which you can find in the description. It would really help us if you liked the video, subscribed, all that silly jazz, if you wanted to see more of this. Seeing people respond to our videos feels amazing, and it helps us figure out what people like and don't. If you're here still, for some reason, thank you so much for watching. I hope to, catch you in the next one. In case you can't tell, the podcasts are getting a little shorter, because I feel like I can pack more concise information into shorter dialogue and still make it work. So I don't need the half-an-hour podcasts. Me and Laura don't need them. Neither do you guys. I mean, if you want the longer ones, let us know. But personally, I believe that when given too much just random time to talk about whatever, we really do just go off on a million tangents. In any case, hope to see you in the next one again. Bye-bye!